So, ever been gripped by a burning desire to listen to a skeleton answer the internet's most perplexing unanswered Harry Potter questions with a few of my own slightly unhinged ones thrown in? No? Excellent. Let's get started. I'll take this. Oh, it's far too late to try and escape now. No, really. Consider that the very first time Voldemort runs into Quirrell, he's existing as a spooky, ethereal spirit. Whoa. Before he overpowers Quirrell, then bam! Suddenly, he becomes this creepy face hitching a ride on the back of Quirrell's dome. But what about the turban he's wearing, I hear you say? Yeah, sure. You know what? The turban does conceal Voldemort's face. We see this in the first Potter movie. And it keeps Voldemort's face hidden while Quirrell is at the supermarket shopping for groceries. Or while he's taking his dog for a walk. I mean, if he had a dog. Although, that doesn't take into account more mundane activities. How does Quirrell sleep? And what happens if he rolls over in his sleep? How about when he's in the shower? He's got to make sure to clean those hard-to-reach places. That could potentially become very awkward. I know he's just a face on the back of his head, but does Voldemort still require his teeth to be brushed? As amusing as these questions have been, sadly, I don't think there's a great answer for any of them. I guess you could blame it on Rowling for not taking a detour into the what-if lane before throwing these ideas into her books. On the other hand, it could just be me overanalyzing and getting stuck down the rabbit hole of character intricacies. Either way, it's like Rowling left us with a puzzle, and we're all here trying to connect the dots, even if they do lead us to some strange and bizarre places. Well, okay, only one of the Potters and baby Harry would have been able to fit underneath the cloak. Although now I'm imagining all three of them attempting to squeeze underneath the cloak like it's an overstuffed turkey and sneak past Lord Voldemort. Alright, back on track. When Dumbledore was a young man, both he and Grindelwald were obsessed with the idea of obtaining and uniting all three Deathly Hallows. Rumour has it they were gunning for their ultimate glow-up, their final form, the apex supreme being of the wizarding world, the Dumbledore. But as Dumbledore matured, his perspective on the Hallows did a 180. It went from gotta catch 'em all to wait a minute, one wizard possessing all three of the Hallows might be an incredibly bad idea. The wake-up call would have come when he witnessed the havoc caused by just one of the Hallows, the Elder Wand, in Grindelwald's grasp. So this leads nicely into the event where Dumbledore asked James Potter if he could borrow the cloak, most likely so he could study it. Initially, he would have wanted to make sure it was the genuine article, seeing as there are multiple invisibility—
What did he say?
I said, hello, Grandma. Okay, no, I didn't actually say that. I said there are multiple cloaks of invisibility floating around out there. Some can be woven from the hair of a demiguise, and regular cloaks can be enchanted with an exceedingly powerful charm or hex. But all these cloaks would pale in comparison to the Hallow Cloak of Invisibility. More importantly, once he was certain he had the genuine article, Dumbledore, perhaps anticipating a worst-case scenario where Voldemort might end up in possession of the cloak, would have then dedicated his time with the cloak to seeking a way to either destroy it or find a means to negate its effects. While it's old news that Dumbledore had the cloak, thus preventing James and Lily from using it to escape with baby Harry, I got caught up in my own imagination for a while, crafting an explanation for why he borrowed the cloak from James in the first place. Can you imagine what a bloody disaster it would have been if Voldemort had managed to get hold of the cloak? One example that suggests transfiguration can be permanent is when Barty Crouch Jr. transforms his father's body into a bone, which in all honesty is a bit confusing in itself when you pause to think about it, since transfiguration comes with its own set of limitations. Successful transfiguration requires the subject to closely match both the mass and size of what you intend to transform it into, whether it be a chair or a living being. The transformation depends on achieving a balanced match between the original subject and its intended form, which loops back to Barney Crouch Jr. I'm fairly certain that no single human bone is the size of a man. Maybe I skipped that day in anatomy class. Maybe he transformed his father's body into that of a dinosaur bone. Apart from being a bit odd, this does hint that in this case, the transfiguration is permanent, or at least Barney Crouch Jr. thought it was. We also have the story told by Horace Slughorn, where Lily Evans presented him with Francis the Fish. She later transformed Francis into a lily just like her. Oh, it's beautiful. You were too precious for this world, Lily. Hold on, I'm not sure how ethical it is to transform a defenseless goldfish into a plant. This could have some truly sinister ramifications. So let's just awkwardly move past all those, shall we? One day, Slughorn observes the lily sinking down to the bottom of the fish tank. Then poof, it transformed back into Francis the Fish. Interestingly, this was the same day that Lily Potter was taken out by Lord Voldemort, and I don't mean on a romantic excursion to the Swiss Alps. This does bluntly smack us in the face with the knowledge that in one respect, Transfiguration is like a magical hourglass, with permanence flowing until the one who casts the spell's time has run out. If that's true, then in Barney Crouch Jr.'s case, when his time was up, the bone he buried would return to its original form, his father's body. If the fish story is accurate, then it seems to be hinting that Transfiguration is ultimately not permanent. For now though, let's finish this section up by considering that the wizard's power could be taken into account, whether that be their skill at Transfiguration or just their raw magical might. That may account for any discrepancies. When we saw Lockhart during the back end of the Chamber of Secrets, our perception of him as an extraordinarily gifted and audacious wizard takes a tumble, revealing him to be nothing short of a complete and utter charlatan. But that's not quite true. Lockhart, it turns out, was a wizard of moderate talents. Maybe not up there with the Chosen One or Chosen Ones. His proficiency in the art of memory charms showcased a capability not to be underestimated. And let's not dismiss his prowess in the realm of crafting engaging literature. Now, where were we? Oh right, Lockhart, in his attempt to obliterate the memories of Harry and Ron, decided to employ the Obliviate charm. With Ron's broken wand in Lockhart's hand, the spell spectacularly backfired, blowing up in his own face, wiping his own memories out instead of Ron and Harry's, leaving Lockhart in quite the sorrowful state, incapable of remembering even his own name. Lockhart ends up at St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injuries. Let's slide over to the Deathly Hallows, more precisely to the point where we find out Hermione cast the memory charm on her parents to make them forget she ever existed in order to protect them. Now, thanks to J.K. Rowling, we know that after Voldemort was defeated, she went to retrieve her parents, casting a counter charm on them, which worked, reuniting Hermione fully with Mummy and Daddy. Oh, isn't that just adorable? Thanks to this example, we can theorize that during Lockhart's stay at St. Mungo's, the staff would have tried at least a few memory counter charms. The reason they may not have worked is most likely down to Lockhart casting the Obliviate charm with a broken wand. I like to think about it this way. Because the spell backfired, what came out was a corrupted version of the spell that Lockhart originally meant to cast. I sincerely doubt he ever recovered his memories. This question answers itself. We see his body disintegrating. So problem solved, right? No, at least not in the books. It's made clear that his body is intact. Well, mostly intact. They stick his body in a wagon and cart it up to the top of a volcano, where they proceeded to cast it down into the fiery inferno below.
Cast it into the fire! Yeah.
Did they strap cement blocks to his feet, shove him in a boat, and sail out to the last known coordinates of Atlantis, when they pushed his body overboard, letting it sink down to meet the Kraken?
Nom nom nom. Get in my belly. Why the hell did I write this into my script?
No, they probably just booted his lifeless body down an oversized well.
This is Hogwarts.
Alright, fine. Maybe some of those suggestions are a bit unlikely. Apart from one, incineration. And here are just the few reasons why. The Dark Lord's body could have swiftly become a morbid beacon for his most fervent followers. Worse still, one of a group of dark wizards got together and attempted to resurrect old Voldemort. Normally, you cannot truly resurrect a person. We know this from not just the tale of the Deathly Hallows, but also from how the Inferi were created, which are basically the wizarding world's version of zombies. Voldemort was not an ordinary wizard. He effectively made his body immortal, and we know that a piece of his soul does still exist in limbo. And while it's supposed to be trapped there, unable to move, and it's definitely not coming back no matter what.
I have died before.
And that chap came back from absolutely nothing. Maybe this is just a personal issue. The danger is that it exists. It's not moved on to whatever is next and is now nigh unreachable. His soul fragment is just floating around somewhere in the immaterial realm, rubbing its little immaterial mitts together, waiting for its chance to strike like a comic book villain. And if somehow a group of dark wizards did ever figure out how to move that fragment of Voldemort's soul back to his body, that would be a nightmare scenario, because this time he wouldn't be simply starting off as some non-entity flapping around in the wind, giving the Wizarding World years to prepare for his return, Voldemort would pretty much just be back. This potential risk, however minute, would be a massive red flag for the Ministry. And let's just say that Harry tells the members of the Ministry Voldemort cannot return because the last fragment of his soul is stuck in limbo. How do you imagine that conversation is gonna go? And even if they do believe Harry, some members of the magical community are gonna have moments of fear and doubt. Okay, and the last equally important reason has to do with his body itself. Yes, you heard that right. Voldemort's sexy body. For Voldemort's immortality to be taken seriously, this would have had to include his body and the cells inside it. I mean, what would have been his plan when he reached the grand old age of 91? Was it to fly around on some kind of motorized scooter, partaking in magical drive-bys? Zap zap pow, zap zap pow, zap zap pow. My point being is that his immortality would have to include his body, or eventually bits of him would start falling off, like an irradiated ghoul. Although technically that's happened already if you include his nose. Trust me, I know. And who knows what dark secrets could be discovered by creepy wizards if they manage to get their grubby little mitts on Voldy's body. And yes, I know wizards aren't exactly scientists, but still. Hello, thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, then hit the like button. Now you'll excuse me while I ramble to myself for just a minute. I mostly like how this video came out, although looking back, I could have done a better job on the transfiguration section. Perhaps in the future, I'll make a video dedicated solely to transfiguration. And when it comes to limbo, I hit a bit of a roadblock in my script for a few reasons. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the concept. Like, why not just have Voldemort's soul move on or be extinguished completely? I'm genuinely curious about what Joanne had in mind when she threw limbo into the mix. Was it originally intended as a potential escape hatch in case she ever decided to resurrect Voldemort down the road?